Section 4, components of a will. There are three components of a will, if you will, and that is the integration, incorporation by reference, and acts of independent significance. Very simple concepts, or at least these first two are extremely simple. So the components of a will are everything that makes up the will. So the will can contain several pieces of paper. Other documents that are currently in existence that may be incorporated into the will so they are considered part of the will. So what in integration, incorporation by reference, what that means is like you combine, you add, you put it all physically together. Documents that are in existence that the testator intends to become part of their will. So let's take a look at the first one, integration. So the court can include all papers that are physically present at the time the testator executes her will, so long as she intended those documents to become part of her will. Generally what's going to happen is all the documents will be stapled together or somehow attached so that a physical connection is shown. Remember that we talked about like revocation by physical act? Well, let's just say we attach all those torn pieces together and put it with a piece of paper that says, I revived my first will. And all you have is these pieces of paper that are all ripped together, but you staple them or you paper clip them together or you physically connect all of them somehow. That's the doctrine of integration. You just integrated everything. You pretty much collected everything and put it all together and go, this is all mine right here. This is my will. And it doesn't have to be pretty as long as it can be probated. That's all we care about. Can the court discern what the testator intended? So if all the papers are physically present and if somehow they're attached or combined or and as long as they show some kind of unity, that's the doctrine of integration. Very simple concept. Next one. Incorporation by reference. Well, simple as that. See, a will can incorporate by reference a writing that is in existence. So we have a writing that's in existence when the will is executed, so long as the will sufficiently describes the writing to permit its identification. And they're going to use some like really interesting language. On one exam, there was the person named on a pink sheet of paper, dated here, and stuffed inside my desk. I mean, and then they found one sheet of paper in the guy's desk with that date on it. It was a writing in existence. It was sufficiently described. And clearly by the language of the will, the testator intended to incorporate that by reference. So the key thing is that you can't say in your will and document that I intend to make at a later time. So pretty much the only key element here is in existence. It has to be a writing in existence. It's going to be sufficiently described. You're going to have to use the facts to discuss that. It's not going to be difficult. You're not going to have to solve the Rubik's Cube or figure out how they split the atom to figure out whether or not it's sufficiently described. It's pretty simple. So incorporation by reference, a writing that's in existence when the will is executed. The will sufficiently describes the writing to permit its identification, and the language of the will demonstrates the testator's intent to incorporate it all by reference. It's that simple. And finally, the more difficult of the three, if you will, acts of independent significance, which is actually the least heavily tested of the three. So a will may dispose of property by reference to acts that have significance apart from their effect upon the dispositions made in the will. And the act must be done for primarily non-testamentary motives. Now, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, and I agree. So let's take a look at an example. And this is a pretty recent example, a few years ago. Coach Dean Smith. Now, if you don't know who Coach Dean Smith was, he was a great coach of North Carolina basketball team, men's basketball team. Brilliant, brilliant coach. He passed away. And in his will gave $200 to every letterman who played for him while he coached at North Carolina. Think about it. The fact that they played for basketball for him at North Carolina, he referred to acts that have significance. The fact that they played for him, that's a significant act. For anyone who's ever played sports, I actually played basketball in high school despite my vertical challenge, my horizontal challenge. Acts that have significance, it's like there's a team, there's a chemistry there. So that has significance apart from the effect on the will. And it's done for non-testamentary motives. I mean, Michael Jordan, McAdoo, and a number of other players didn't go to North Carolina because they know they were going to get named in his will. They were going to go there for the $200. They went there because they were great. Harrison Barnes, I can name a bunch of Warriors. I'm a big Golden State Warriors fan. who went there. I know Michael Jordan didn't go there. Get off me. Okay, so remember, it's an act that has significance apart from the effect on the will, and it's done for non-testamentary motive. So Coach Dean Smith put a provision in his will giving $200 to every letterman who played for him while he coached at North Carolina. This provision is an example of an act of independent significance. Playing basketball for Coach Dean Smith is unrelated to the dispositions in the will. Like I said, they didn't play for him because they knew they were going to get $200. And the fact that they played for him has significance apart from the effect on the will. And they played for Dean Smith for a non-testamentary motive. They weren't doing it to get any money out of him, nor did he ask him to play there and he would give him $200 in his will. That's not how it worked. That's what's called an act of independent significance. So I think that example brings it home. For your sports fans, you probably already go, yep, I got it. Totally makes sense. Sorry, I don't have a Kardashian examples, ladies. That's it. That's components of a will, and that's section 4.